The Atacama Desert stretched before them, a vast expanse of arid earth, and jagged rock beneath a sky ablaze with stars. The air was crisp and dry, carrying the faint scent of ancient dust and the distant whisper of the Andes. A small fire flickered, its golden light casting shifting shadows against the surrounding dunes. Anya poured steaming mugs of tea from a thermos, the rich aroma curling into the cool night air, blending with the smoky scent of the fire. She sat cross-legged on a worn blanket, her eyes fixed on the endless sky above. "Look," she murmured, pointing toward the Milky Way, a luminous river stretching across the heavens. No light pollution, no noise, just us, the desert, and the universe. Kenji, the group's resident pragmatist, leaned back against his backpack, sipping his tea. And a whole lot of emptiness. This place is practically lunar. Maybe that's why all the stories persist, May chimed in, a mischievous glint in her eyes. UFO sightings, strange lights, people vanishing without a trace. Anya chuckled. "Oh, here we go. You're going to tell us about the desert spirits your grandmother warned you about." "Come on, some of these tales are ancient," May countered. "Pre-Mongol legends, cave paintings depicting bizarre figures. The Gobi is steeped in mystery." Lynn shivered slightly, though the fire provided ample warmth. Something about the desert's profound silence, its sheer immensity, made her feel exposed, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. But that was just her imagination, wasn't it? A sudden gust of wind swept across the dunes, sending a swirl of fine sand swirling around the fire. For a fleeting moment, an absolute silence descended, broken only by the crackling embers. Then, to their west, something shifted. A light, faint at first, barely distinguishable from the stars, began to move. It darted erratically, then paused, then accelerated with impossible speed, disappearing over the horizon. Lynn frowned. "Did you all see that?" The others looked up, scanning the sky. The light zigzagged again, then vanished in a blink. The fire flared up, casting long, dancing shadows, but no one spoke. Then, a deep, resonant boom echoed across the desert, as if the sky itself had cracked. The ground vibrated beneath them, rattling their mugs against the rocks. The air crackled with an unseen energy. Anya scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. Lynn gasped, pointing towards the sky, as 3 enormous crimson orbs descended from the heavens. They didn't fall like meteors, or fade like dying flares. They hung in the air with a sense of purpose, moving slowly, deliberately, unnaturally. Their light pulsed with a heavy, rhythmic cadence, as if something alive resided within them. Each pulse sent a low, electrical hum through the atmosphere, raising the hairs on Anya's arms. "What the—" Kenji breathed, his voice barely audible above the strange crackling energy that permeated the air. The orbs drifted silently across the desert, bathing the sand in an eerie red glow. Then, as if responding to an unspoken command, they moved towards a distant mountain range, jagged peaks that had stood sentinel for millennia. Above them, a massive metallic shape emerged from the darkness, its seamless surface distorting the stars. A colossal saucer, hovering as if it had always been there, unseen. The fire sputtered out, plunging them into darkness. The air thickened, charged with an eerie energy. A metallic taste coated their tongues, and the desert fell into absolute, unnatural silence. Lynn gripped Anya's arm tightly, her fingers numb. "We have to go," she whispered, but no one moved. Deep down, they knew they had been seen. Lynn's eyes widened. "Go? Go where?" At the pyramid's base, a jagged crack revealed a narrow passage. Strange carvings covered the walls. Inside this was no cave, but an entrance. Kenji stepped in first, flashlight flickering over massive, precisely cut stones. An ancient temple, lost to time, loomed in the darkness, its construction impossibly perfect. Lynn ran her hand over a block, her fingers trembling. These must weigh tons. How did they move them here? Anya swallowed hard. She remembered the old legends, the tales of beings who shaped the earth before humanity walked upon it. The silence between them was almost suffocating. The ship hovered in the distance, its unnatural presence warping the very fabric of reality. The orbs beneath it pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves, casting an unsettling yellow light across the desolate landscape. Anya's heart pounded, but her mind latched onto something. An old story, one her grandfather used to tell about these mountains. These mountains, her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. They have stories surrounding them. Lynn stared at her, her eyes wide with apprehension. What kind of stories? Anya forced herself to look away from the craft, the unimaginable, looming shadow that had invaded their world. Stories of the earth beneath our feet, that something is buried deep down, that people have heard whispers, seen flashes of light in the sky. Some believe it's an ancient civilization. Others, she cleared her throat, her mouth dry. Others say it's not human. Kenji scoffed, crossing his arms. Oh, come on, not now, Anya. Anya turned to him, her expression serious. I'm serious. The Gobi is full of these stories, petroglyphs of strange figures, old myths about tunnels that lead to places that aren't supposed to exist. The elders say these mountains are doorways. To what? May asked, her voice trembling slightly. Anya took a deep breath. Something that was here before us. An uneasy silence fell. The fire was long dead, the air thick with static. Kenji sneered. This is ridiculous. Look around you. You think these are just fairy tales? We just saw a 100-meter diameter flying saucer appear out of thin air, and you want to talk about folklore? He laughed, but the sound was strained, tense. This is just advanced military technology, something real. He shivered. It wasn't fear, it was cold. The temperature had plummeted. The deeper they ventured, the more the desert's warmth vanished, replaced by a creeping underground chill. Their breath misted in the beams of their flashlights. This doesn't make sense, May muttered. We're in the middle of one of the driest deserts on Earth. Why is it so cold? The tunnel sloped downward, its walls scarred as if carved by colossal tools. It resembled an ancient mine, but the deeper they went, the heavier the air became, pressing down like an unseen force. Ahead, a steady, unnatural light glowed. Lynn gripped Anya's arm. Please say that's the exit. Anya couldn't. Dread coiled in her gut. The tunnel constricted around them, cold seeping into their lungs. Then, it opened into a vast chamber. Their flashlights barely reached the edges. The air was thick, charged with an ancient presence, and at the center, looming in eerie silence, stood a pyramid. Not a structure of stone, but something far more alien. A black, glassy monolith that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its surface was smooth, yet strangely organic, as if it had grown rather than been built. Kenji approached cautiously, the beam of his flashlight reflecting off the pyramid's obsidian surface. What in the world? Lynn shook her head, her voice a whisper. This can't be real. But it was. Anya felt it deep in her bones, a primal scream that this pyramid was not meant to be seen by human eyes. It had been there long, long before them. Before the Mongols, before the first nomads who roamed the Gobi, before recorded history itself. Then, on the far side of the pyramid, something stirred, a shadow, number A figure. It hovered above the stone floor, its form flickering between mist and flesh. A tattered robe clung to its skeletal frame, and where its face should have been, there was only a hollow void. The air around it twisted, heavy with something ancient and wrong. Lynn gasped. That's not possible. The pyramid reacted. A low, guttural moan filled the chamber as the ground beneath Anya crumbled. She tumbled down jagged rocks, her flashlight lost to the darkness. Above, her friends screamed her name, but she couldn't look away. The figure drifted closer, the void where its face should be stretching wide. A deafening wail erupted. Thin darkness. Hands grabbed her, pulling her back. No one spoke. They ran, never looking back. They never returned. And deep down, they knew they never should have entered at all.